Hey everybody, welcome back to Off the Wall. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sol.
I'm Bogz.
All right, we are here talking about the much long-awaited Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Right off the bat, spoiler alert, because there's not really a universe where you can get into a lot of this movie without spoiling it. So we're gonna nip that in the bud right off the top. Once again, written and directed by James Gunn. This movie was supposed to have been made and come out ages ago, but between COVID pandemic and drama behind the scenes with Disney and James Gunn, the rearranging of the MCU that happened as a result of that, this movie is finally out now in 2023. Came out 5 years exactly, same weekend as the first one, which is pretty wild. I actually saw this one 5 years to the day when I saw the second one, so that was pretty neat. We've got our stacked returning cast, including some newcomers like Will Poulter as Adam Warlock, Chukwudi Iwuji, who played what's his name in Peacemaker, is in here as the High Evolutionary. Nathan Fillion makes an appearance at one point, as well as a few other favorites. It's a big movie. It's 150 minutes, so 2.5 hours exactly. And as of the time that we are recording this, it has already made its money back in its opening weekend worldwide. So there we go. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's interesting to point out that up until now, the Super Mario Brothers movie has been the #1 movie at the box office. So Chris Pratt took down Chris Pratt. Go, Chris. I just saw this movie yesterday. I don't know when you guys saw it, sometime over the weekend, I believe. I love this movie. I'm just going to come right out and say it. I love this movie. I cried 3 or 4 times. I had an amazing time watching it. I can't wait to see it again. I'm seeing it later this week with my mom. I think the Guardians trilogy is going to go down as one of the best trilogies ever. I think this is a top tier MCU movie. I could gush about this thing ad nauseum, but I want to hear what you guys think first. Sol, we'll go to you first. What did you think of this movie?
I think I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I feel about this movie, because I liked it a lot as I was watching it, but then when I was leaving the movie theater, I wasn't completely satisfied. And I do have like some nitpicks with it, and I'm like, is it the nitpicks that I have that is making this movie not as great to me, or is it something else that I haven't really realized? Maybe I need to see it a second time because I saw it Friday night. So I liked it. There's a lot of stuff that I loved about it. There's some nitpicks that I have about it, but I walked out not completely loving the movie the way I expected to.
And Bogz, what about you? You saw this, I think, the same day I did. What did you think about this?
Yeah, first of all, anyone who I understand I'm having some audio issues today, so I do apologize if that's not coming out too clear. I don't know, Mike. It's definitely the best MCU movie since No Way Home. Definitely. That's not a very high bar for me, though, personally. I did like it. I didn't love it. I also, like Sol, was left a little unsatisfied. I do have to admit. But there was definitely some fun parts of the movie, some characters I really liked. But I've got loads of issues and nitpicks with this one. But like I said, it's much better than anything that's come out in Phase 4 bar. Spider-Man No Way Home. So yeah, I did enjoy myself. It was good, not great. I did definitely prefer. It's my least favorite Guardians movie out of the 3. But overall, I definitely had fun with some moments. Yeah, lots of positive. It had loads of dark themes. It's definitely fun. The CG is beautiful sometimes. It's, the creativity, the world building, things like that. And like I said, some cool character moments, but I do have loads of issues that I really want to get into and know your guys' thoughts as well.
Yeah, I know, like, it's definitely not alone. Like, I know that overall, just from what I've seen online, like the general consensus with the movie is like most people are kind of in the same route of me of like sold towards me where like they like it but have some issues. Do they love it? There's plenty of people who have bigger issues with it, like you did, Boggs, as well. And I think that's just kind of, I'm enjoying seeing more of that people are being more open with and honest with the things they like and they don't like, because I do think for the longest time there was this mentality of like the MCU can do no wrong, and for the most part, like I have generally loved everything they've done, not without my nitpicks, but I am enjoying getting to see people speaking up a bit more about the things they do and don't like, because that is ultimately how, you know, better films get made. Is, you know, people vote with their dollars, and they vote with the things they say online. I am curious to hear the things you guys did have the nitpicks with, because I'm curious. It's kind of the same thing a lot of people have had issues with, and I've heard a lot of what those are, not from you guys but from other people, and I think they just didn't bother me as much. Like, I recognize they're there. They didn't bother me nearly as much. Ultimately, Guardians for me has always felt like I'm hanging out with my space buds, and it was great to hang out with my space buds again. And I also appreciated that, like, you don't have, this is a question somebody at the comedy club had for me last night, which was, do you have to watch the holiday special to watch this? Ultimately, I don't think you do. There's one teeny tiny piece of info from the holiday special that moves over this, and that's the fact that Mantis is Quill's sister. That's it. That's the only, well, that, yeah, it's fun. I encourage you to watch it. You don't have to watch it if you're not.
That went completely over my head until I was watching a review, because like I thought they were saying like, oh, sister, like as in like found family, not sister as in you're my blood relative. And so then when someone said it like in a review and that you find out in the holiday special, I was like, oh, yeah. Okay.
That's it. Like, they introduced the fact that they're using Nowhere as their base in there, but like it's easily covered in this movie as well. Like, you don't have to watch that, which is, I think, honestly kind of refreshing, because I think when you think about like the MCU stuff that's on Disney Plus, there is that worry of like, do I have to watch all this stuff to know what the hell's going on in the movies? Not everybody wants to. So I appreciated that. I don't know. I think as far as it goes with James Gunn giving a final send off to this team of misfits, that if you told me 20 years ago they were going to be some of my favorite stuff in the MCU, I would have told you were nuts. That I've gotten to hang out with my space buddies all this time, and I still felt good. So, but yeah, let's get into some of the issues and nitpicks you guys said you had, because I do want to hear what those are, and also I like to get the negatives out of the way so we can end with positive stuff. Boggs, we'll go to you first. What you know, you said you had some of the bigger issues for you. What were like the problems that you had with this one?
Yeah, a few. So I definitely think it was too long of a movie. Like, I felt like it was maybe 30 minutes too long. I was getting physically uncomfortable in my seat, meaning that like I'm sitting here too long. The movie's dragging. The repetitiveness of the pop kind of music, the soundtrack, is every single scene in this one. I felt like I was listening to James Gunn's like MP3 from like 20 years ago, personal version. Like, I know they do that obviously, but it's not as much as this. I felt like this was like overused, and some character arcs I thought were really poor as well. Warlock's character, I mean, he comes in with a bang. I kind of like his kind of the opening thing with him, and that's it. He comes in sparingly after that, and almost just is there for a few laughs and just kind of save Quill at the end. That was definitely built up as well as some kind of as like an amazing character, and you know, there's a bit of hype on the casting, and the minute, and you know, watching it, he's kind of a glorified background character, really. Gamora as well, I found her quite irritating. I've got to be honest. Like, she's, I've rewatched Volume 1, Volume 2, Infinity War, and Endgame, and she was not this angry or aggressive. I know it's a different version of Gamora, but even in the first one, she endeared to the team and things like that, but she was just so angry and aggressive the whole way through. I got really tired of her. I felt like there was real no need for her to be in it. For for her overall arc. And as well, Nebula, I didn't really enjoy her arc too much. I do quite like Nebula, but I didn't really enjoy her humor too much as well. She was another one that was super aggressive all the time. I'm just not a fan of that kind of character arc and journey. And just like, yeah, I read the whole movie, you stay angry. Someone gives you a bit of advice, and then you kind of a little bit angry at the end. Not as angry. Like, you know, they was happening to both Gamora and Nebula, and I was like, you know, come on. They were kind of my biggest issues, but you know, they were consistent throughout the movie, particularly the soundtrack stuff. I was waiting to hear like a random pop song in every scene, and it literally happened. So yeah, like I said, they were my biggest issues: the length, the music, the character arcs of them three. Also felt the you know, I did like the villain and the actor and stuff. You know, it was a good performance, but I did feel he was a little shouty in the kind of third act. Like, he just turned into like a yelling generic villain at the end. Like, I thought it was super cool and creepy of how he was, you know, world building, and like how like he's like an evil inventor, creator, you know, building these worlds, destroying them. And then when he kind of destroyed his whole kind of team and stuff, like he just turned into a super shouty, screaming in like Rocket's face and things like that. Like, he just turned a bit generic then. So they were some of my biggest issues, but like I said, I'll end obviously if you want my for some positives, but they were my overall issues. And yeah, and like I wish they went deeper into like you know, the whole someone being in control of a society, and even the whole kind of experimentation stuff. I wish that I felt like they couldn't go as deep as they were setting up, because they had to make room for kind of almost like the Ant-Man of the Wasp Quantumania style ending, with kind of everyone kind of running off and rebelling almost at the end, and jumping from, you know, that kind of spacecraft to nowhere. It was just like a big CGI fest with the, you know, in space as well. And I just didn't love the third act as well. So yeah, a few issues. But yeah, I can go on, to be honest, but I'll end it there.
No, it's good, man. I will echo two of those points, which are I did think it was a tad bit too long. 2.5 hours is kind of where, like, and I'm a guy who usually is like, I'm all like, yeah, be long, you know, be slow, whatever kind of pacing you need to tell your story. For this one, I think there was a couple times where the pacing was a little uneven, and so it felt like it dragged it a few times. Right. Particularly, I think the second act dragged. Like, not that it wasn't good, but it was just a little. The second act was a little long, I think. And then also
one last thing, Mike, before I remember. Also, the actual ending of the Guardians themselves, I didn't love that as well. Like, I was kind of looking like, the movie's dark, it's ultra violent, his face is getting ripped off, there's animal cruelty throughout. The actual ending of the Guardians, it was like everyone survived, everyone's good, the band's breaking up, okay, just go look everyone. And I was like, oh, it was just a bit deflating, like, oh, that's it, like, there's no dramatic thing, or like, you know, no like crazy twist or ending, or like, even like I was kind of rooting for Gamora and kind of Quill to cook up again, or like Mantis and Drax. I wanted them to kind of go off in the sunset, and like it just didn't happen. And you know, they've got these new Guardians, and they're just obviously not as good. And I was like, oh, is that it? And he's just kind of chilling with his granddad, and I was like, oh, it was a little deflating, a little anticlimactic. The actual ending, I thought it maybe someone would die or something dramatic, or like, you know, I was hoping for something spectacular in terms of the actual endings of the Guardians themselves, and I just didn't get that. Personally, it was like a happy ending, and I expected James Gunn to do something a little bit more explosive and intriguing, which I was also a bit disappointed with.
I don't know. I kind of didn't mind that, because I think there was that running expectation that somebody was gonna die, because like we knew that this Guardians team wasn't going to be together anymore after this. Right. So I think there was that expectation. For me, I actually kind of liked that nobody died, because like it's bad enough that we're breaking up this family. Like it's bad enough that we're splitting this team up and they're not going to be together anymore. Like Mantis is saying, like, I can't be with you, this team anymore, because I'm not, I don't feel like I have a place to just be who I need to be for myself, and for Nebula to like finally have an understanding of like what, like, Drax, what are you good at other than breaking shit? He's a dad, you know, he's so good at being a dad, and he never got to finish being one because of what happened with his family. So he gets a second chance to kind of be a dad. And I like that everybody, like, that it is still kind of a somber ending of like this team, this family is done. It's time for them to move on from kind of each other and go figure out who they are without each other, because they've gotten so used to doing everything as a unit. You know, Peter hasn't taken the time to like really process, like, I have the ability to go back to Earth now, and I've never had the opportunity to like reconnect with what family I have left. And everyone kind of finding a new place for themselves after they've been these kind of just misfits stumbling across the galaxy, figuring out where they fit in, for them to all be like, no, we're going to go find where we fit in now on our own. I kind of liked that. I didn't need any of them to die for this arc for me to feel like it had completed. As far as it goes for me. Soul, what about you? Do you echo a lot of the things that Boggs has brought up? Were there, because I know you said you had kind of a lack of satisfaction at the end.
Yeah, I will say for me, it's like I didn't think that the movie was too long. I think they didn't use their time well in certain things. There was a lot of like tonal shifts that was like where you have this really dark animal cruelty story, and then like it switches back to present day, and like people are just like, you have that Marvel humor, and it was very like the way it switched on and off from that, like, kind of took you out of it, where I felt that maybe putting the whole story together of the backstory instead of having it sprinkled, or doing something different, or easing in and out of it might have worked better. I don't know. But it was like such a huge tonal shift in between, where Marvel has done that a lot recently, where they used to be able to juggle all these tones and like have that balance, and now in like the recent films it does go from like one thing to the next thing like very quickly, and it's like, how is this? And the pacing too with it, like in the second act where you have two let's go on a journey to pick something up kind of thing, and it was like kind of the exact same thing, just one right after the other, of the first like let's go into this like weird human like station to go get the information for Rocket. Oh, it's not there. Now let's go to this other place to get the information for Rocket. And it was like the exact same thing. Maybe putting Rocket's backstory in between that to like really hate the High Evolutionary might have been better, to separate those two, because it was like literally one right after the other. So you're having the same kind of like, let's go find something. And so it's like, oh, we're just doing the same thing again, which it's fine when you do it once, but when you're doing it exactly, I was like, okay, sure. I did not like Adam Warlock. I liked his entrance. His entrance was, but he seemed, I think the reason I don't like him is because he wasn't in the movie enough. Like, we didn't really get anything cool with him. It was like we got that really cool thing at the beginning, and then it was just like nothing paid off. That redemption wasn't paid off for me at the end. I think even like I was watching Dan Merrill's review, and he was saying it would have been cool if Gamora was the one that saved him instead of Adam Warlock, because it would have been the reverse of the first movie. So I was like, oh, that would have been cool. Like he was saying, like, stories, it rhymes, doing like a George Lucas impression. And I was like, oh, that would have been cool. I didn't even think about that till I watched that review. The music drops, I love the music drops of the first two movies. They didn't kind of work as much, I think, in this movie. I don't know if it was too many or if it was the actual songs or anything, because like I love the songs from like the first two movies. So I don't know why the music drops didn't work as well for me. This time, let's see, the Drax and Mantis were kind of annoying to me. Although I do love Drax, like the whole father thing. I wish that would have came in a little bit earlier because, like, for the whole movie and in previous movies, he's just dumb, and they kind of like have taken that to its extent and playing him as the dumb character too much. Let's see if I have any. These are all like nitpicks, by the way. It sounds like I hated this movie, but I didn't.
That's what I said. We're doing the negatives first. We'll get positive stuff in a second.
And Gamora, I wasn't feeling her. And I think too, with how long this movie was and the way it uses time, we didn't get enough about how, because like in the first movie, she finds family with the Guardians, and it kind of like implies at the end of the movie that she finds family with the Ravagers, but we don't get to see any of that. We just kind of like, oh, Gamora, you're back, we love you, kind of thing with her and the Ravagers. And it would have been cool to see how she found family with the Ravagers. And like the Peter Gamora stuff, like I guess you had it a lot as like, I don't know, it wasn't working for me, and I can't explain why, but it just wasn't working for me. The way their interactions with each other just seemed really sad. And so it was like just a lot of the like tones that was happening where you'd have some really great stuff and then like it would take you out of it with something else. I don't know.
So the Adam Warlock stuff didn't really bother me. I think that's because Adam Warlock's one of those characters who's like, he's kind of like Superman, or where it's like once you introduce him, he's kind of the solution to every problem. Like in Marvel Comics, he's like one of the most overpowered characters, like of all. Like he kills Thanos and takes the Infinity Gauntlet in the comic books. So like introducing a character like Adam Warlock is already like tough because it's like because he becomes the, well, any kind of like with Captain Marvel is kind of the same way. If you take the Captain Marvel from the comics and just drop her into the MCU, suddenly it's, well, here's a threat. Captain Marvel can handle it because that's how powerful she is in the comics. And Adam Warlock's kind of the same way. He can pretty much take out anything. It's why in Civil War you write it out to where the Hulk is not around, because whatever team has the Hulk on it wins. That's why you have Wanda on one team and Vision on another, because if one team's got both, that team wins. Yeah. So having Adam Warlock essentially with, you know, not really kind of figuring, because I kind of like the idea of like, now we can get to having that Adam Warlock. We don't have that Adam Warlock yet. We're now leaving room for us to eventually get that, because if he is just there and is that powerful and is that kind of Deus Ex Machina problem solver, there's no longer any stakes whatsoever ever again, because it's like, well, Adam's there, we'll be fine, zap zap punch, we win.
I think he wasn't needed in this movie though. Like this movie could have existed without him.
That's where I'm at. For me, the problem isn't like the execution of Adam Warlock. My problem is, and I understand they were trying to cash the check they signed at the end of Volume 2. And I feel like that priorities changed between productions just because of how things changed. Ultimately, I think, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, he probably just didn't need to be in the movie. I get why he is, and I enjoyed what they did with him, but he absolutely like didn't really need to be in it. You could leave him out. It doesn't really change anything. The fight at the top could have just been another one of High Evolutionary's creations coming to try and get Rocket, you know, something like that. There's a couple of different ways you could have handled that, and it probably would have shaved some time off the movie too.
Also, there was no explanation of his powers in any way.
Yeah.
So, and then Gamora just like, sorry, it wasn't Gamora that killed him.
Nebula.
It was Nebula, right? Yeah, she just like stabbed him with like a blade. I was like, oh, I thought he was like Superman. Like I was just confused of his powers. Like, what powers he got? How has he got them? What can he do? Like you mentioned Captain Marvel there. Like she's OP, right? but
Yeah.
we know her powers because they did that in the movie, right? They explained her powers. So at least we know what she can do. But with him, that's what I mean. He's just there. Okay, he's badass, and then he just gets killed. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he's just kind of there with like weird comedy, and then he saves Quill at the end. It's like, oh, why is he like saving him? I don't know. I was just completely, confounded with this character.
I had seen or heard an interview or somewhere from years ago with James Gunn where he kind of implied that he regretted setting up Adam Warlock because I think he realized in that moment, like, shit. Like now, especially then when you get into when you get into this, I genuinely do think had this not been the kind of final send off for the Guardians, it might have been different. Because like if James Gunn hadn't had the situation of being fired and then things having to get rearranged the way they did, and him kind of being like, "Fine, you for one more movie," he probably odds are
actor as well. He's a good actor.
Will Poulter's great.
Yeah,
that's the other thing too.
Yeah,
is what they
he played it well for what he was given.
What they gave him to do, Will Poulter did very good, and he's very good in other things too. He's such a good comedic actor. He knows how to deliver a joke on camera. If you have not seen We're the Millers, please go see We're the Millers. He is so funny in We're the Millers. But yeah, ultimately it does feel like, I feel like if this hadn't been the send-off movie, he probably would have just been the antagonist. But because this was kind of the send-off and James Gunn's like, fine, you get me for one more, it felt a little backed into a corner. Again, I'm talking out of pocket here, just interpreting what I saw. So yeah, I liked the portrayal and I liked what they did with him, but I don't think he needed to be in this movie, ultimately. But again, I also think introducing Adam Warlock at all, and again, I might be remembering wrong, but I can just imagine realizing what you've introduced to the MCU in Adam Warlock is like, oh shit, now we got to use this guy. Oh god.
I think I remember him doing an interview too. So if he didn't, then both of you and I remember.
Yeah, maybe I'm just projecting, but I like, just as someone who does write, like, and just knowing what I know about that character, if I suddenly like had 5 minutes to sit back and go, ah shit. now what am I gonna do? Like I introduced this thing at the end of 2, which had 6 post-credit scenes. It's like, man, maybe I should have cut that one. I don't know. But yeah. But ultimately, I'm usually not into needle drops. For some reason, the James Gunn needle drops don't bother me. I know that was one of my biggest gripes with the Willow series on Disney Plus, which I enjoyed. I hated the credits needle drops they did at the end of every episode. But mostly because I think that those ones in particular felt really out of place. Like, here's this para-medieval sword and shield fantasy series with a cover of Enter Sandman playing during the credits. Like, it felt weird. That's why I don't like A Knight's Tale, because I don't need to see people in medieval England. I don't like that movie because I don't need to see sword and shield guys in armor singing "We Will Rock You." Like, it's weird. I'm sorry.
It is perfection.
No, it's not. But I don't know, for some reason the James Gunn ones don't bug me. Like, whether it's Peacemaker, whether it's the Guardians movies, they don't bother me as much. Yeah.
Sorry. I will say that I don't love the kind of needle drops, as you put it, in the first and second. I don't always love them, but they are relevant to the scene sometimes. Like, the songs are actually relevant, or the lyrics, or it's there's a variety as well in some of the songs, whether it's 70s or 80s or pop music or R&B or soul or Motown. This movie, it was like strictly 90s pop songs, and they had almost no relevance to the scenes, or the lyrics didn't, or they were like imperative, like the previous ones, sorry, in Volume 1 and 2, they're imperative to, or even in Infinity War Endgame, like, they were imperative to what we were getting. They just felt like random songs, like, because I was listening and paying attention, like, oh, I knew like 1 or 2 songs, I didn't know many, to be honest, but they just didn't hit, or they have the same. Like I said, it was like he was playing, he selected like a random playlist on an MP3, and it was like the way Star-Lord does, and it just felt like that. So yeah, I just want to say that, like, the previous songs are important to the scenes themselves. This was just like, I was just, or I wasn't getting the references.
Yeah.
So, and if I was in, a lot of other people went in my opinion.
There was
I agree with that. Yeah.
there was a couple of them. Like I thought starting the movie with the acoustic version of "Creep" was excellent.
Oh, that was so good.
Because that set the tone, and that implied the story. If you know, if you know the song. I thought using "Dog Days Are Over" at the end was very good. Alice Cooper's "Chasing Rainbows," was good. I think that's the one thing I will say about the needle drops in this movie is the ones on 1 and 2 didn't bug me. These ones didn't bug me as so much. It was just I felt like a lot more of them. Kind of like to your point, where it's like it wasn't that I didn't like the needle drops. There were just so many of them.
You knew they were coming, right?
Yeah,
every scene.
Yeah. And I will agree that the needle drop, where the first one with the "I'm a Creep" and then "Dog Days Are Over,"
Yeah.
I felt like those fit with what you were watching on screen.
Yeah.
And I agree with Bogz that the rest of the needle drops we had, the lyrics, the way the music, like the beat to the music or anything, didn't fit with what was actually like being portrayed on screen.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a little, like, it was kind of hit the beginning of it were great, and the middle was hit and miss. Some of them were really good, and some of them were excellent choices. Some of them were like, you needed a song. Whether or not the songs were good is immaterial. I think all the songs themselves are good songs. Also, strangely enough, and I am typically not a Beastie Boys fan, "No Sleep Till Brooklyn" was a good choice for the. By the way, and Marvel has found their secret weapon for action scenes, and it's called a hallway. Because, man, every time you gets a hold of a hallway, dudes are about to die. It was a great action sequence. What did you guys think? And I'm asking this purely for my own self-gratification. What did you guys think of the MCU's first F-bomb?
Loved it. I think it was an outtake.
It was
an outtake, and then he said, this is the way I had canon in my head, was that she was having trouble opening the door. And like it was probably like annoying Chris Pratt, the person.
Right.
And he dropped that, and then James Gunn said, "This is fucking perfect. We're keeping this in."
so I can confirm from an interview that Karen Gillan and Pom Klementieff gave that the scene was written for them to fuck with the door, but to improvise going back and forth. And that just in the excitement of improvising, Chris Pratt let that slip. And they were just kind of like, you know what, and James Gunn was basically just like, I'm going to beg them to let us keep it.
Well, PG-13, you're allowed to say fuck once, as long as it's not like sexual.
Yeah.
So it's a lot.
Bogz, did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you care?
Yeah, it was actually a funny scene, to be honest.
Yeah.
But not really. No, I don't like it. They did. I know it was spoilers for Star Trek Picard. They do swear quite a few times in Picard, and it shocks me when they do that. The swearing in Star Trek, like, it's never been done since when did it first come out? 1966. Or when did it ever start? So, and they're doing it with the MCU now. You know, there's a sex scene, and it's I'm not liking it. I'm not liking the, you know, it's a family movie for kids as well. It's been built up on that, and I just don't like. There's no need to swear in it. It's like, what's going to be next? You swear in Star Wars? Like, what's the? Do you know, I mean, it's a bit too. Honestly, I really laughed at that scene, but I just didn't. It took me like 30 seconds. Did he say? What? Like, I thought he said, yeah. Like, it didn't hit me. I was laughing at when he's telling me to open the door, and then I thought, oh, did he say? So yeah, it was. I don't like it, no, to be honest.
I think that's one of the most relatable scenes I've ever seen in a comic book movie, because who among us has not had that exact argument with somebody at some point in our life? Oh, stop pulling up, just pull. No, I'm putting like that is. And how many of us have wanted to scream, just open the fucking door?
I could just say that my parents bought a new car, and I was stuck in the back, and I was like, take the child lock off. And it's actually, the door was actually just not working. You can't open it from the inside. So it had nothing to do. But like, it was me and my dad. I was like, take the child lock off.
See, I'm that asshole child that I used to do that to my parents on purpose. Like, I'd get in the car before them, and I'd sit there and play with the lock. And my dad would get so mad to the point where he would scream, like, let me open the fucking door. But no, that scene was, like I said, it's like one of the most relatable scenes I've ever seen in a movie, because that's happened to everybody at some point. Anybody got like a particular favorite scene or favorite moment in this movie? The one that they just made them just kind of sit back and just take it in and just say yes. Soul, we'll go to you first.
I love Rocket's backstory. It makes him more relatable. And he was relatable before, but like it really like solidifies him as a character and his arc. Do I love that he was sidelined so much because he's like in a coma for most of the movie?
Yeah.
But that we got all of it, and it was just so heartbreaking. And it was like some of the best acting was happening by people that aren't actually humans on screen.
Yeah.
By like Bradley Cooper, the way his voice acting as Rocket was great. The other animals that are played, like Lila, Teets, and what was it? Floor was the bunny.
Yep.
And also too, like how mangled the rest of them were. Like
that was
very
fuel.
like it was like body horror, except it's not a human, it's an animal. And just the absolute violence of that and how dark it was. And I think that's why I had problems with the tonal shift, but I loved his backstory. So I'd say that's probably like my favorite part of the movie is all the things with Rocket Raccoon in the past.
It's fun to point out too, by the way, Bradley Cooper did all the voice work for Rocket, even younger Rocket. They just, shift it, which I think was great. I think that's kind of why, like, I know people, I understand what people mean when they say Rocket got sidelined. I'm kind of struggling with that, because I'm like, I mean, he was technically in the whole movie. It was just in flashbacks. So I don't know if that counts. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of sitting there with two minds of it. I'm like, yeah, like modern day Rocket wasn't there for most of it, but Rocket was there for the whole movie. So I'm on the fence of like, it wasn't that I had a problem with it. I'm just like, I'm trying to figure out how the best to phrase that. Bogz, what about you? Like favorite moment in the movie?
Yeah, I'll say the Rocket stuff as well. It's Rocket's movie, and he is the main character in the movie. Yes, I was wondering throughout, up until halfway through, when are they going to wake him up? Because is he going to like die? Like I was like, I thought a few times he might die, and Quill might die as well. But yes, the stuff with him and the other kind of creatures, yes, they were the best things in the movie. I wish there was more of them. Altogether, maybe they were in it 15 minutes or so. I just wish it was longer. And I liked the villain as well. I thought his acting was pretty good. This villain's better than Kang. I'm sorry, like his performance, his intensity, his look, the kind of thought out kind of world building they did. That's more menacing, like to destroy the whole civilization and then kind of move off like it's nothing, like you've done it so many times before. And how he was talking with, kind of Star-Lord and all of that. I just liked his creepy nature and his look. It was way more interesting and compelling. Like I say, did get a bit too shouty by the end of the movie, and a bit generic. But up until the last act, I thought it was pretty good. Creepy, and they were my favorite part. Oh, probably the best thing in the whole movie. I thought Drax was really funny in this movie. Like the audience that I was in the packed theater. I think they laughed at every single joke that he said. I didn't personally, but he got the biggest laughs, and it was consistent throughout. Even the whole sofa thing is obviously repetitive as anything, but I laughed every single time. I really did. And even he's calling the kids morons. It's just silly jokes that really aren't the most in depth in the world or the most cultured you ever heard or sophisticated, but they got me. Also, another thing I didn't actually like, but I noticed in Drax first, was that they seem to have lost all their kind of looks, meaning that how they kind of their gear, their identities from the first and second movies. Like Drax without his shirt, or like Nebula, her outfit, or Star-Lord's outfit, even with the whole kind of mask and jetpack boots, things like that. They haven't got any of this stuff. They've all got these kind of generic overlays. And because I noticed, because Drax didn't take his shirt off the whole movie. and because obviously he's a wrestler, got a great physique, and I kind of enjoyed seeing the tattoos and his overall look. But he's in a whole. I know maybe he's older and he's not in that shape anymore. I don't know, but I did notice that specifically, and I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. I don't like the way they have the all the kind of same them kind of overlays that they're all wearing. So that was another side thing. But yeah, I'll say Drax was definitely a cool part for me. Yeah, Drax the villain and Rocky's backstory were my favorite bits. And the CG, I've got to say, I'm not the biggest fan of Marvel CG sometimes, particularly in Phase 4, but this was really good. Some of the, the way the ship took off from the Counter Earth, and just to be honest, with the CG in Guardians of the Galaxy, particularly 1 and 2 as well, with Ego and his planet and everything, but particularly 1 is, dare I say, a bit ingenious. The way the world building and just the overall designs and the colors and the outer space things and the planets and the ships. It's like it's like Blade Runner, but kind of James Gunn's version, if you will. You can I wouldn't kind of dismiss that comparison, but yeah. So I really like the CG in some of this as well.
The CG was really good in this movie. It was very well done, and I know that there's been shakeups and removals of people from over at Marvel that were kind of alleged to be the reason why they've been having so many issues with their CG studios lately, namely Ike Perlmutter, who's got a long-standing reputation of being a penny pincher. So
they put all of the people to work on this movie.
Yeah, they were like, we got rid of the bad people, and plus, James Gunn has final cut on all of his movies, and so ultimately, he is meticulous with that kind of thing. So I'm absolutely certain. Wow, it's my turn to have loud people driving around outside. Ultimately,
I know. I was like, that wasn't me.
That was me this time.
I presumed it was so.
No. It's nice outside for the first time in 3 weeks. So the 4-wheeler guys are out here riding around the streets because I got a big park across the street from my house. Anyway, that has nothing to do with anything we're talking about. All of Rocket's backstory was, it was heartbreaking. I was in tears. It was crushing my soul, but it was excellent storytelling. Like you said, Bogz, Drax, and I think a lot of this goes to, first of all, he's in an excellent shape. If you see him in Glass Onion, he is shirtless for most of the movie. And he is I think a lot of that was two things. I think, A, that makeup, the time in the chair is got to be ridiculous. So it's a way to save on that. But also the uniforms they were wearing are actually what the Guardians wear in the iteration of the comics this movie was heavily influenced by, particularly Star-Lord, the kind of these blue, like they were wearing in the post-credit scene. Like those are kind of like the uniforms of the Guardians in the movies. So I think that was meant to be more of an homage thing than anything else. But that's also why I was never a huge fan of those uniforms in the comics personally. So I was kind of like, oh, cool. You're referencing that. I don't like that though. Like you're referencing something I don't like.
Not for the whole movie.
Yeah, not for the whole, like in like one scene or something would have been cool. But ultimately, Drax lands every joke. And I think a lot of that has to do with how well tapped into this character Dave Bautista is. If you've seen the video that's on Marvel's YouTube channel of his test footage from when he screen tested with Chris Pratt for the first Guardians, like you could tell that Chris Pratt was still trying to figure out who Star-Lord was, but Bautista knew exactly who Drax was. And like none of this, is all screen test footage. None of it's from the actual movie, but it is still some of the funniest stuff you will ever see. Dave Bautista knows Drax. Ultimately, I think my favorite part of the movie was honestly, and it's stupid, it has no reason to be my favorite part of the movie, is all the stuff with Kraglin and Cosmo.
Oh my! I was gonna say I loved Cosmo the bad
all the stuff
dog.
With Kraglin and Cosmo was so good. Just no, I am not a bad dog. Tell me, because that is such a dog thing. If dogs could talk, calling a dog a bad dog would be the ultimate slur. I mean, and I knew from the moment he said you're a bad dog, I knew exactly where that story was going. I did not care. I was like, I cannot wait to see the absolute obvious end of this story. I know it's obvious. I don't care. It's funny. And I know it's going to be an awesome moment when it happens. Also, we got Seth Green back as Howard the Duck for a scene. Can we just keep dropping him in the background of things, please? That's great for me.
I'll say this, Mike, on the back of that Cosmo stuff, you just reminded me of something with the. Like I said, I personally I did find Drax quite funny in the movie, but I will say that with the whole Cosmo joke thing, yeah, and I did laugh when because you could see it coming, right? What was going to happen over the next few times they appeared, but it did bring back some thoughts that kind of repetitive. It's like you rinse the heck out of a joke, like that continued to, as you said, you didn't mind it, but that continued to happen every 15 minutes for the rest of the movie. The whole bad dog joke, right? And the repetitiveness of having your brother in the same scene every time, that led to me thinking later on in the movie, because it kept happening, so I kept seeing the humor being brought in every scene. It's like I felt like just shouting out, like, just chill out with the jokes, James. It's like in every scene there was an interjection of like a random, like you don't have to be like, even with the, like Saul was saying earlier, with the whole rockets, and Flora and all the other animal creatures and stuff, they're having that emotional scenes, and they'll immediately cut to someone having a joke. It's like you don't have to do that constantly, and then within a few seconds there'll be a pin drop, as you said, a song like it just got a little predictable of rinsing the same things over and over again. So I just thought, as you mentioned, the Cosmo thing, like they did do it several times. They did bring the brother in several times. Like this stuff for me could have been cut, a lot of it. Like,
okay, we have one of those too.
Yeah,
that happened a lot as well.
Yeah, you could have. This happened so many times. All this stuff could have been cut down, and I think it would have led to a better movie personally. But yeah, sorry, Mike. I just thought I'm at 2 cents.
For me,
which I did like that joke too. We have one of those, but then it happened like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, another one. The Nathan Fillion.
Yeah.
But yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
I thought first or second time it was funny, but maybe. Yeah, I don't know. And even the actual joke goes on too long. I mean, I understand that's James Gunn's style, but I feel like he's like, because he's a sole writer on this as well, which he wasn't the sole writer on the first and the second one, volume 1, volume 2. I mean, so I feel like he's too much control. Like it's like pure James Gunn. Like there's no like people to kind of pull the reins back a little bit, and I felt like that was being oozed out there. But yes, this stuff is better than anything in Phase 4. Obviously, not called Spider-Man No Way Home. I'd rather see this stuff, but I will say, for me, for loving it or putting it in the top 10 of the MCU, for example, is these things. Like these things where he's having too much control and too much influence on the movie, personally. But yeah, sorry, you were saying.
And I know you guys, I know you guys were talking about Drax in it, and I don't know, and maybe I need to see it again. Drax didn't hit for me. Yeah, it didn't hit for me this time where like Drax hit for me so much in volume 1 and volume 2. And so I was like, why am I not getting the same? There's people laughing around me, and there was times where I was laughing out loud at him, and there was times where I'm like, this is not hitting me the way it should. So so I wouldn't even put Drax as my favorite. I actually really like Nebula in this I think out of like the humans, the non-animals, Karen Gillan was the best like acting role of the way she was acting her role, knowing who her character was. Kind of, and it almost seemed too kind of like an unrequited love for Peter Quill too, and I wanted that to be explored a little bit more, because that was interesting there. And then there was like a little bit of joke about it later on in the movie, but I wanted that to be explored more because that stuff was interesting to me.
Before obviously Mike ain't spoke for a while, but just on a Quill thing, just that, because he's not really been mentioned. I did like Quill a lot in this one. Like he felt like the leader of the Guardians. He felt like the main hero, and I like that. Like that's what brought me into Guardians in the first place. Oh, this guy's like unsure of himself, doesn't know what he's doing, half human, cool kind of guy. And I felt like in this movie, like he's the leader, doing cool, badass things, and making decisions, and having jokes, and flirting with girls, and just being like an old school 90s kind of hero. And I like that. But yeah, sorry, back to you, Mike.
No, I'm good. Yeah, I'm curious to see how this movie is going to do in its second week. Like I said, it's already made its money back in the box office in this opening weekend. And until we get the Marvel, this and then the Marvels, and then that'll be it for 2023 as far as MCU movies go. We know that Secret Invasion is dropping on Disney Plus this year, and I think that's it as far as 2023 goes for the MCU. Unless What If
it's Loki,
or no, Loki season 2. Loki season 2 is this year as well.
Yeah.
That'll be it. Because I know they're working on What If season 2, but I don't think they have a release date for that yet. So we'll see. But yeah, overall final thoughts on the movie. I fucking love this movie. I can't wait to see it again. I had a blast watching this movie. I think James Gunn this just kind of reaffirms for me that I think DC is in good hands with him, and I am now more pumped than I already was to see his Superman movie, which is now officially in pre-production. The script has been submitted, and they've started meeting with set designers and costume designers. And I fully anticipate that once The Flash comes out, we'll have more DC announcements from James Gunn around the corner. But a lot of what people enjoyed the most about the MCU, the Guardians movies, which on paper, Guardians of the Galaxy should have never worked. And he found a way to make it work. And he, I think, delivered a strong trilogy, plus the holiday special, plus the appearances they had in, like Endgame and Infinity War and Thor Love and Thunder, brief, although it was. Actually, I've enjoyed the hell out of the Guardians. They're my space buddies. I'm sad I'm not going to get to see them together anymore. The tag at the end of the movie, that the idea that Star-Lord will return, I have no idea what that even means, because I thought this was it, but who knows? We'll see. The future is uncertain. So love this movie. I can't wait to see it again, and I can't wait to see more from James Gunn over at DC. Bogz, what about you? Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I'll just do a quick comment about the post-credit scenes. I thought they were both pretty bad in comparison to historically some of the MCU scenes, but I'd rather do post-credit scenes than not, because you're waiting there for 15 minutes after watching the credits, and then you don't get post-credit scenes sometimes, or you get one that's really no point staying for. So I'm glad they did two at least, apart from the legendary Star-Lord will return. But overall thoughts, I will push back on what you said there, Mike, about the box office. Personally, I mean, as far as I'm aware, because I actually checked this information, maybe not exact numbers, but roughly anyway, I believe the box office is $250 million. Okay, to break even, you need to get the general consensus is 2.5 times that budget, so that's about 625 million. The opening worldwide box office for this movie was, I think it was about 220. Sorry, the domestic box office for Volume 3 is, I think it was 114, something like that. It's in the teens anyway, 114, something roughly like that.
118 million domestic.
118. Was that 118?
Yeah, 118 domestic, 289 million worldwide. Okay,
so the domestic box office for Volume 2, which grossed about 800 million worldwide, was about 140 something. I want to say 146. So that's on course to generate less than Volume 2, which is the highest grossing out of the Guardians movies. So to break even at 600, you have to get over 625 million at least. That's projected less than 800. That's not a good box office return in my view. So I think it's speculated to generate about 700 million worldwide. That's less than 100 million profit for an MCU movie that costs 250. I don't think that's a particularly good box office. I don't know if it'll end up. I'm just reading the predicted figures, but I think there's a bit concerns. Obviously the last few movies. I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to say any MCU movie not called Spider-Man, which is, remember, it's Marvel and Sony, it's not Disney. Any MCU Disney movie will not generate over $1 billion unless something dramatically changes. For example, This movie, James Gunn had the full reins on this movie with writing and directing credits, as did Taika Waititi for Thor: Love and Thunder, and he didn't for Thor: Ragnarok. So all the good work that you put in from Thor: Ragnarok, look at what we ended up with. It's the same, in my opinion. It's the same kind of iteration of a downward trajectory for this movie, by far better than anything. I just want to make that clear. Anything that we got in Phase 4. So it's still, I'd rather see James Gunn movie than any of these recent directors in Phase 4, or moving into DC. I do like James Gunn, so he's better than a lot of working directors. So I'm still looking forward to that. But I'm really, really, like, there's major concerns with the MCU at the minute. This movie will not generate $1 billion worldwide, and I think it will have poor or less than expected overall worldwide earnings. This just my thoughts. Nothing in Phase 4 apart from Spider-Man generated $1 billion, which is considered obviously a major success. They have several movies over $1 billion, or past their budgets. I just think it's really interesting time for the MCU, and I think they're potentially in trouble unless something majorly, because they did some real damage this season in Phase 4, in my opinion, especially with the general audience and the non-connectivity of the movies and series. So that's my MCU rant, and that's my final thoughts, Mike.
So what about you? Any final thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, kind of to echo a little bit of like Bogz in the MCU of like, so Phase 4 started with Black Widow and ended with Wakanda Forever, and I didn't like Black Widow. Shang-Chi was okay. I didn't like Eternals. I loved Spider-Man No Way Home. Doctor Strange was okay. Thor and Love and Thunder was okay. I really liked Wakanda Forever. I saw it on a plane. And then starting of Phase 5, didn't like Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania, and I'm okay with this movie. I liked it. So to what Phase 1, 2, and 3 of Marvel was, I can see that, I don't know what they have to do to kind of bring that goodwill, because talking to my friends here, they're like, yeah, we're not liking these Marvel movies in the same way that they were being talked about Phase 1, 2, and 3. I did like this movie a lot. I loved the rocket stuff. I liked the first needle drop and the last needle drop. I do not like the ones in the middle. I think there was tonally, it didn't work so well. I think that this movie had a lot of good bones to it. And like, if some things were switched around, the way the story was told, or shorten it, lengthen it, take away some, like Adam Warlock, add a little bit more of like Gamora, like why she's with the Ravagers, found family like that, or add a little bit more here, this could have been like so good. And I think it's in that way of like, not that Guardians 1 and 2 are like the Godfather, but you know how like people like talk about Godfather 3 not being a good movie, and it's because Godfather 1 and 2 are just so phenomenal. So then when you follow that up and it's just okay, you see it as a bad movie. And I feel like that's the way with like Guardians. Is like, I loved 1, I really liked 2, and so this one just doesn't hit. The rocket stuff, I think, hits on like as good as the first movie for me, but like the rest, not so much.
All right. Well, that's what we think of this movie, guys. We want to know what you think, so make sure you let us know down in the comments and like and subscribe and all that stuff. And we'll see you guys again here we'll see you guys again back here next time with another review. Back time here on Off the Wall. Bye.